hope you're having an awesome day. Are you ready to better understand yourself, your partner, and your marriage? Yes, you will today on this episode of LifePix University podcast. I'm your host, LaVictoire, here to help you rewire your brain to be more efficient and effective. And I am excited for today's guest. Before I bring them on, if you haven't taken the assessment to see whether your mindset is stopping you or helping you from being productive, head over to lifepixuniversity.com/mindset. That's lifepixuniversity.com/mindset and take the assessment right now. Put this in pause, go take the assessment, and then come back. I am super excited for today's guests because they've been married for 12 years and they've been through a lot that people just like haven't been through, like major accidents and children before they were ready for it, and just so much going on there that it really helped them become closer together, not further away like it would happen with a lot of other people. Thank you so much, Jaquelyn and Murphy, for being here. I'm excited to be speaking with you. You want to start by telling us how you guys met?
Sure. Yeah. So we met actually working at a hotel in Oklahoma City. I was hanging drywall at the time, and the housing market kind of crashed, and so that work dried up, and I was just looking for a job that would give me 40 hours, and I figured a place that was open 24 hours a day would work. And so I went in and applied at a couple of hotels that day, just to be any position they had available. And we remember it just a little bit differently. I don't remember turning in my application to anybody at the desk, but apparently I turned it into her.
Yeah. So how do you get the job without turning in an application? Yeah. Right?
She told the manager that I seemed polite.
Yep.
And so that they should hire me. But she was new in Oklahoma, so she didn't realize that saying ma'am and sir
was normal.
That's just, everybody does that. Like, I'm not exceptionally polite. Like, right. I literally am just like everybody
else. You were
dressed
nice though.
Yeah, I mean,
so that helps.
I
hope applying for a job.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, then we were like best friends when we were working at the hotel, and
yeah,
he said he fell in love with me right away. We always tell the kids it took me a little bit longer. So
oh God, what were you doing, Jaquelyn, at the hotel?
I was the front desk supervisor at the time. And then I ended up moving and working as a director of accounting in Norman, Oklahoma. But we stayed in the hospitality industry for how many years altogether? Like 6 more?
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So at what point did you get married? You were like still...
When we got married...
I had already left.
He had left the hotel. He was working at Habitat for Humanity. We had a almost 1-year-old, no, just over one when we got married, and we got married in Jamaica.
Oh,
yeah. We've been married. It'll be 13 years in October. So 12 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, what was the biggest change in what your relationship was when you got married and like now?
Oh my gosh. Well, we've had like a lot of stuff in our lives we did how many moves? 5 moves across the country. Right when we got married, he just like started getting injured all the time. Like he rolled a steamroller, he cut his finger, like all of these like crazy things. And then about, what year was it that you got in your accident?
2015.
Yeah. In 2015, he was in a really bad car accident and has, permanent memory loss from it, and like a lot of stuff from that. And so that has been like a big obstacle to overcome for us. And he is legally blind. So,
so let's go back to that situation, right? So you've been married how long by that time, by the accident?
By the accident, that was 6 years, 6.5 years, something like that.
6 years married. You're like living your lives. I don't know, you already moved by then multiple times?
Yeah, that we were located in Minnesota at that point.
Oh,
So
wow.
like at home base, we have 2 kids now. So
Oh gosh. Okay. And then all of a sudden this like disruptor comes. It's not like even like you knew about it or
yeah.
even like maybe like I might be changing jobs or something, but like literally overnight, everything just like changed.
Right.
So first, what was your relationship like during that time? Like I'm going to assume you were in the hospital for some point.
Well, they released him really early. He was in a coma. I was in Wisconsin visiting my family at the time, and I got a call from his cell phone, but it was the paramedics calling. And he was saying that he was fine in the background, and then he crashed. And then he went into like a coma, and he woke up and he couldn't remember. He thought we were still in Oklahoma and like kept.
Yeah, I had reset to before we had kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know
wow.
that we still had kids or that
Right.
we already had children. So
And so we drove it. We were 6 hours away. And so my parents and I got in our truck and drove right like straight to the hospital to be by him. And then they let him out. One doctor thought he shouldn't, the other thought they should. Long story short, they let him out too soon. And so I was taking care of him and 2 little ones within like 24, 48 hours. So
gosh.
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, that strain. What did that do like for your relationship?
In a lot of ways, it shuffled the balance between the 2 of us. So before, it was pretty clearly a 50-50 split. And then while I was healing and all of that stuff, like it couldn't be a 50-50 split. Like I couldn't carry my half. And so for a while after that, she did the majority of things. And then it was actually one of the last things we kind of had to like come to terms with was getting back to balancing this, like letting go of trying to like take care of me like, on a daily basis and me reassuming, the responsibilities that I could still accomplish.
So yeah, it was definitely a shift in our marriage. We definitely had a hard time letting go of the caregiver role after like being scared and like just doing it for quite a while. So we ended up going to counseling, and that worked really well for us. Like it was great. I'm not necessarily in the sessions like we didn't, but we would get in the car and we would just like have at it sometimes, but it like ended up being really good.
What was like the biggest takeaway when you look back? You're like, okay, this was like one tip or one thing that we implemented and like drastically changed everything.
Do you think that might be better for you?
It was probably just a reinforcement of something we had already agreed on, was to just always have each other's back. And so I think we solidified that even more. And I think that's the biggest thing we got out of counseling, because like we would leave each session and like neither of us liked our counselor. And so we would,
at least
like,
for that, right? Like it's not like one of you do and one of you don't.
We're not telling her anything about us.
I know, it was like common ground. I think like that gave us like, okay, like now we have like a common ground, but we would like talk then after, so yeah,
like
I
a
think
common
like,
enemy that like literally
Yeah.
so we always say like it's me and you versus the world. It's like always been and I think we lost that for a while.
Mhm.
And then like it kind of helped us get that back together.
So you had that before the accident. And then
we like, one of my favorite things about the way we met is that we truly were best friends. Like when we met each other, we weren't dating for quite a while, and we were together all the time, just like through a lot of stuff. And I think we talked to each other, like when you meet somebody, like usually when I would date, you'd like hold stuff back. Like you don't want to say like the embarrassing stuff or the bad stuff. Like you want to be on your best behavior. And I feel like we knew each other 100% going in. So there were no like deep secrets that ended up coming out. And we've always been really close. And I think like the accident made me like treat him more like a child than like my best friend, And so we had to get back to that point.
yeah, it's really interesting, and not just more than interesting, like admirable of like to watching you. Like a lot of people would just blame the other person, like I had to work so hard and it was so stressful and it was so much, and instead of like you're taking the responsibility for your part and your role in what you did, you're like, oh, I became too much of like a mother, and not trying to blame anyone or do anything, but understanding the actual situation, what really happened here, so that way you could grow out of it.
Yeah. Like people, because he has permanent memory, like he has short-term memory now, short-term memory loss, sorry. And like people would joke with me, they'd be like, why don't you just say, like, you could say whatever you wanted. Like you could start a whole different story, like when he asked you stuff. And I was like so deeply offended that people would say that, because I'm like, I'm the only person he trusts. Like my dialogue of like our relationship in those 5 years that he doesn't remember, they're just like, that's it. Like that's all he had. And so I've always been very honest about things when it comes to like getting his memories back or rebuilding, I guess, what was lost.
Right.
So
Yeah. And it's,
I
I
used
think,
to joke that she was like my external hard drive.
yeah.
So I had to like dump the memory and reformat. And so, you know.
now getting it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like your marriage is built on that trust, and just making up these stories is just doesn't make sense. Doesn't
Oh,
like, yeah, it lacks ever like that would ruin your foundation.
right. And
Yeah.
then as soon as he found out, like if it was one little thing that I had lied about, then how would he ever know? Like what else is a lie then? You know?
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So I'm curious, Murphy, what's it like living in a world that like you lost 5 years of the memory, and how obviously you trust Jaquelyn and she could like proved herself extremely trustworthy, but how did you move on from your life knowing that you had a huge chunk missing?
Like that's I mean, honestly, that's still something that I deal with like on a regular basis. I don't know if you can 100% like just move on from something like that. And so, I just try to, cherish the things that I do remember, and just make sure that I'm paying attention and I'm cognizant of the new memories that we're making as a family.
yeah. And we always joke, like we use humor a lot in our relationship, which is like our strong, like I feel like that has gotten us through a lot. But I'm always like, well, at least we didn't get married or have any kids in those 5 years. Like if you're gonna erase 5, like it's not the worst,
Right.
I mean, it's still not great, like obviously, but it could have been worse. Like he could have forgotten like the birth of one of our kids, like
Yeah.
that's a big difference.
So you had the kids before or after?
Before. We
Okay.
had Isabella is 13, so she was born before we were married. And then Morrison is now 9.
Mhm.
Yep. So
Oh, wow. Now, what has raising children done to your own relationship?
I think it's brought us closer together. It was something that I was a lot more ready for than she was. I'm the second of 6 kids. And so I grew up like changing diapers and making bottles, and like none of that stuff was a really big deal to me. And I always knew that I wanted to be a dad. She, when we met, said she didn't want children.
well,
But I guess at one point, just working together, there was a woman that was checking in at the hotel, and Jackie was checking her in, and I just went around the desk and like took the baby from her that was like crying and distracting her, and I was just bouncing the baby and like calmed him down, and she said afterwards that like she saw that, she's like, well, I could have his babies.
yeah.
And so
It's very true. Yeah.
that was like, it was not a thing I did like consciously or
Right.
anything, but it was one of those things that like another key to I think our success in our relationship is that we play to each other's strengths. And so like at the time I was like a lot more prepared for this.
Mhm.
And then she had to like learn some of these other things. And then we just go into everything together, but deferring to
Right.
whoever has the best handle on the situation at the time.
Yeah, Isabella was a surprise. I was crying and he was like, I'm so excited. I called him and he was just thrilled. And I had 2 semesters of college to finish, and was just like, what am I going to do? And he's like, it's fine. We got this. And it wasn't until years later, I was like, did you really feel like it was fine? We got this. He's like, no, not at all.
That's a man.
But I was like, I trusted him and it worked out. Like it was wonderful. Like I went back to school and finished after she was born. And I love being like, I wouldn't trade being a mom for anything. Like I would have been okay not having kids, but like I knew that he was going to be a good dad. And so it didn't scare me. Like my hesitancy to have kids was like taken care of when he came into the picture, because I just knew it would be okay. So
Yeah. And then when he had his accident and it fell on you,
yeah.
I'm sure that like now hearing this background, when you said it the first time, I'm like, okay, that's like a stress. That's very understandable. But now hearing your emotions about it before, it's like, oh, wow, that was like even more of a big deal.
Yeah. I don't think I'm a good caretaker. I don't know if you think I am.
No,
No.
she's fine. She does a great job.
She puts herself down.
She's also really critical of herself. So.
Right. It's hard. Like I have to make a conscious, like I'm not a patient human. And so it's very hard for me to be patient, but.
Right. And I had to be told everything like 6 or 7 times every hour, for a while. So.
Right. Because he actually, like after the accident, like he had to do all this testing, and he's actually like a genius when he like got tested, like literally. And the only spot that was compromised was his memory. And so I don't do well. Like I always just trusted him to know things, like to remember things. And so it was really hard to like start saying, all right, why didn't you do this? Like he just doesn't, I don't remember that you told me that. And so a whole different system from like being almost like a photographic memory to like learning to write things down, and then to remember to look where things are written down. And it was just a whole process. We had to
like, did you have to like literally create a system in your house to know who's doing what and how things are happening?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We still do. I mean, like he has a whiteboard that we like write things down on, and he checks it every day. And I think we just like, in a lot of ways, his memory it's not going to get better from this point. But I think it feels better because we've learned how like our new systems are together now.
Because I didn't have any of those tools before, because I didn't need to take notes or anything like that before. And so adjusting to that was also really difficult.
And I'm like ridiculously organized. So that is a good thing. So he like, I felt like I could help him with that part, like at least like being organized and remembering. So that part I felt like helped a lot.
Yeah. I always say like you have to work with your brain and not against it.
Yeah.
And now obviously as your brain changed, there had to be like a new way for you to work with it. So that way you could. Yeah. Now, is there any ritual that you do in your relationship that you think that makes your relationship like just awesome?
I have one. Do you have anything on your mind?
I don't know.
I like think one of the things that we've done since we first met is we refuse to have TV in our room. Like we have one TV. And so when we go to bed together, like we talk, and it's like our time. Like we never have done that. And we always like, we haven't lived by family for like a lot of our relationship. And so we've always said like 8:00, it's date night. Like, and so when the kids go to bed, it's like our time. Like,
so now today, like when it's 8:00.
Well, now it's 9 because they're a little bit older, but like they know, like we joke now with our oldest, like, we're not responsible for what you see when you come downstairs after this time. And she's like, oh my gosh, but like we make it a practice to date each other all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And I like how you use the word date, even though like you're downstairs in your house. I'm sure sometimes you go out, but like just that you could make it all fun.
I don't remember the last time we went out on an official date. Honestly.
Yeah, but without the kids, it's been a while.
But like, I don't feel like we're not dating. Like, I don't feel deprived. Like, we still do special stuff for each other, so it's fun.
What's one thing you wish more people knew to make the relationship better? Because you obviously like went through a lot and you've had some experiences that most people, I don't know if fortunately or unfortunately, don't go through them. Because I do not wish that accident on anyone. But it obviously brought you to where you are today. So if you could like teach people, give people one lesson that you really think people should know, what do you think that would be?
Just that, like, there is no point where you feel like you have it all figured out. And like, that's okay. Like, I think growing up, I thought my parents like knew what was going on. And like, once I reached the age that I was looking at my parents at that time, I was like, oh, they had no idea. Like none of us have any clue what this is or how to do it. We just wake up every day, try to make the best decisions we possibly can, and try to do it with each other in mind. And what
Mhm.
else can you do?
Yeah.
You know?
And his dad said to us, take divorce off the table. Like, that's not an option. And so, like, yeah, there's been times where they've like walked out, like we've been really mad. It's not like it's been great, every minute, like that's not real.
Right.
But we never have like threatened divorce, or we just have removed it from like the options of
Yeah.
things
It's not
to
even
do.
like part of your dialogue, part of your train thought.
Right. We're going to
process
have
it.
to figure it out. Like, it might be a week before we talk. I mean, I never make it a week without talking, but
I could go very long.
Right.
I'm inherently quiet.
Yeah.
I don't talk a lot at all anyway, and I'm pretty okay not talking. So unfortunately,
You'd really go for a week without talking.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
No
like
problem.
I feel uncomfortable, but like it's still, I guess that's another thing too, is just learn to apologize,
Mhm.
and just leave it at saying like I'm sorry for blank.
Yeah.
And don't keep explaining. Everything you say after I'm sorry for blank is just making yourself feel better. And like
Right.
the whole point of the apology is to make the other person understand that you understand them. And so
That's a really interesting one. Like, I've been doing this for quite a while already. We're in like the 300s of episodes. And so a lot of stuff get like obviously repeated, and you hear different things, same
Mhm.
thing from different perspective, but that I never heard before. And it's so smart. Just, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And that's it. And obviously you want to come from a good place, but don't like try to defend yourself and give reasons.
Right. You literally have to like swallow those words that try to fall out of your mouth afterwards. Like it's hard to not say those things, but it's important to like sometimes just let that apology breathe. And like,
I'm a terrible apologizer.
Yeah.
Like, I work on it. It's something like I have to consciously like think of, because I'm also like very compassionate. And so I feel like I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And this is like, I feel like I need to be like, this is why I said what I said. Like, I didn't mean to like do that. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, your feelings are real, they're valid. And I'm sorry. And so I have to like remind myself. But
yeah, and you can't tell yourself you're a bad apologizer. You have to say like you're getting better at apologizing, but don't put yourself down like that.
No. And I would say like another thing that every day I try it. Like, my goal every day is to make him laugh, like at least one time. And so like we do, like sometimes it'll be late and I'll like just sacrifice my own dignity just to make him laugh, because I like think it's important to laugh every day. So
yeah. Okay. So before we get to our final question, where could we connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, we have an email address that people are welcome to use. It's Jaquelyn or Murphy and Jaquelyn at gmail.com. I don't know if you'll have it in the notes, but the spelling is kind of
put
odd.
it there.
Yeah. And then my business page is virtuallyeffortless.co, and you guys can connect with us there as well.
Amazing. Okay. So final question, one that I ask everyone is, how would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, trust, and connection?
Marry your best friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, like, I know that's not great advice for everybody else, because maybe that's not possible, but
no, I think if you didn't marry your best friend to start off with, you better make him your best friend.
Yeah, pretty early.
Yeah. And I think like calling each other out when stuff comes up, like if you're truly with somebody you trust and they're your best friend, I think you can say what needs to be said at that time and know that that person is still going to love you, like no matter what, before it builds into some big thing. Yeah. Like, just if they're like, I don't know if we are allowed to swear.
As you wish.
Okay. But we always joke like our relationship's built on calling each other an asshole, because and like people are like,
oh, that's good.
But like, no, it's like, if you're being a jerk, like we're gonna say it right away and then move on. Like, you might have your feelings hurt, you might need to walk away, but instead of like repeating the behavior that you might not even know, like we just say it. And we say those words, like that's where like you're being an asshole right now.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Direct and like to the point. And I think it shows so much about your relationship, that trust that you have there, that friendship, and how much like you really care about each other. You're calling each other an asshole, not because like you're mad. I mean, obviously you might be mad, but not because like, you have this hatred or whatever dislike like you had for that counselor, but like, cause you really care about each other.
Right. And it's like, almost as a joke, like we laugh when we say it now, but it's a trick. Like we know, like, no, okay, I need to check myself right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a pause too.
Mhm.
Like if you're getting carried away or something, it can like bring you back to reality momentarily.
Like a reset type of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jaquelyn and Murphy. This was fun. And I like have to like re-listen to this again because it was just so much value and like these ways that you shared it. I just loved it so much. So I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on. I appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of the Life Fix University podcast, but I have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support the show, but will also help the people you love most. We are striving for 1 million downloads by the end of 2025, and we can't do this without your help. If you love this episode, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can rewire their brains to have an extraordinary marriage. It was awesome spending time with you, and I'll see you on the next episode.